All right, so carrying on and implementing our KYC implementation here. One thing that I like to do is, well, I'm going to build a website that's going to allow people to register their information, and that will put them in the whitelist onto our system. So how you do this is, again, very nebulous, that you can do it in multiple different ways. If we had our website communicating directly with our smart contract, then what I would recommend is not keeping the owner private key on the web server that would communicate with this contract. What I would rather have is a separate account. So that's what I've done here is I've put in a KYC administrator account here with a different address. And the only permissions this account's going to have to do is KYC register people. So here I've got a KYC register method. The first argument it passes in is a address. And then if we look at that code here, I'm just gonna make this public. Public or private doesn't matter at all in this. My kind of pattern is that if it's a method called from main, I'll keep it public, but if it's a supporting internal method, I will make it private. That's just my general thing there. So we make sure that's a KYC administrator. If it's not, we return false. Then here I'm putting into storage their address and just the number 1. So that's a small amount of data. So we're not taking up a ton of storage on the blockchain by writing the whole string of true or their address again or anything large, just one number here. But you may notice a problem with this. We're putting into storage their address and as the key, and that's what we used for balance. You'll see even down here as we use the storage.get and their address here. So technically, what this would do is if someone had a balance of 1 million tokens and we KYC'd them, we would take that 1 million and rewrite it to 1, and those funds would be gone. It's not like they exist. We just updated the database and overwrote it. So you got to be very careful with your keys. So I like to prefix them. We should be able to do a string.concat, and I'm going to use KYC underscore comma address. Now, again, as a .NET developer, you'd expect you're concatenating a string. And what args will this take? Is it just, oh no, it is an object array. Okay, so maybe it would do some magic here. The NeoVM really understands this and makes it so that the actual address is in here, not, you wouldn't get KYC dot, byte, when you toString an object. So that's our KYC register. That's all done. Now we got to go up here and implement is KYC verified. So I'm going to create that method, and this is where things are going to get a little tricky. Well, actually they don't. Yeah. Bool is KYC verified. What we want to know is who the caller is, and we don't necessarily want them to provide it to us as an argument. I'm not even sure if the verification is going to, when you run a verification trigger, if parameters get passed in or not. So we are going to need this little method later here, so I'm going to put it in called getSender. So now I've taken this looking at some other reference scripts out there. And so it's going to look at our current transaction. I don't know why it's complaining here, but we'll get to that in a second. It's going to then get the references from that. So basically the references are the different asset types that are used here. So that if it's equal to the Neo asset ID or the gas asset ID. So in this case, we're accepting both Neo and gas in our contract. I'm going to make this one here Actually, you know what? Let's leave them both in. So if we do find a new asset ID or a gas asset ID, we're going to return their script hash here. So I'm going to declare a few other globals here. So this is the byte representation of the NEO asset ID and the gas asset ID. So you will see that in lots of sample contracts, and it may be confusing to see that, but that is what that is. So now this all compiles, which is great here. If storage get current context, the key here is going to be what we used here. String.concat. So if there is a value, we're going to return true. Otherwise, we're going to return false. And that's it. So I know this may be a little bit confusing. Just if you haven't worked with this before, you don't really normally work with it that much in a contract here. But again, we're just looking at the assets that were sent to find out who the sender is now. This is, it should return along all paths. Is it just being a little incorrect? Let's see here. Do a build. Eventually. Oh, Visual Studio. Okay, so it did build that successfully. So now we've got a method that we can call to register. We've got a verification trigger here that will make sure that the sale is open and that you are KYC registered. So that's it for this video. The next thing we're going to do is to do this redundant check and deal with if funds are being transferred. So I'll see you in the next video.